And welcome back to the Steven BirthdayBomb from the talked about by the SpiffyNeedleGeeks, Day 2. Here, today's episode is Steven's birthday.
Hooray! Birthdays all around. I can't talk today. I'm sorry.
Well,
yeah, Steven's birthday.
That's not a very good sign for a commentator, Ryan.
I know. Well, then again, this is another Steven Universe discussion, so this is no surprise to me anyway.
Meh. All right. So, quick episode summary. So, it's Steven's birthday. You know, the episode starts off with like the gems, getting the barn ready for to celebrate Steven's party. Peridot's still working on the drill, so Steven doesn't really have to worry about progress going behind.
Well, it pretty much looked like even Peridot wanted nothing to do with the birthday and everything, because it's like she's just so hyper focused on this drill and everything. So it's like, okay, what a way to write her out of this plot.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. More birthday cake for us.
Yeah, we literally only saw her in that one scene at the beginning when Amethyst asked her if she wanted to join, and then that was it. She just walked away, and we never saw her again. But
yeah.
So soon after, Greg and Connie show up. Somehow Connie was able to convince her parents, to convince her parents to let her stay the weekend with Steven for his birthday. And so they're talking a little bit, and that's when Greg finally reveals, that Steven's now 14 years old, which just like yesterday, like Danny, Connie was really surprised by that. Connie's only 12.
Yeah, so it's like, oh my god, we actually have age confirmations here.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So Greg pulls out like a little like what are those called?
Memory book.
Yeah, memory book, which shows a picture of Steven at each of his birthdays, and it shows around 8 years old. That's where he kind of stopped. It looked like he kind of started staying the same. Like he really kind of stopped aging, which kind of I would say gives an answer to why he doesn't seem like he's 14. He looked like he stopped aging. So
well, I wouldn't say necessarily maybe stopped aging so much as probably more so slowed down.
I was thinking the exact same thing too.
Yeah, so Connie, that kind of worried Connie. Like she wanted to talk to Greg alone for a little bit. She asked him if he was going to stay how he was forever. Greg wasn't really sure, but at this point he said he would just wait and see. Because Steven overheard this. He was kind of eavesdropping on them. So he felt a little self-conscious about it. And then, Greg asked him to wait in the barn so they can give him his surprise. But while he's in the barn, he gets this idea. And as soon as the doors open and everyone, gives him his happy birthday cake, he's suddenly taller, as if he had this random growth spurt.
Quote unquote.
So, everyone's just like, everyone's, for the most part, like, everyone's either, it's between concerned and or happy for him. Like, Pearl's a little worried. Garnet's just like, it looks like you look good.
Of course.
And Connie, for the most part, is really relieved, seeing that Steven is, in fact, growing. So they continue on with their party, they're having a good time, but over the course of the party, it seems like Steven's, like, he looks like he's getting sick. He's sweating. He's not really acting like himself.
He basically looked like he had to take a giant dump.
Yeah, and then we saw while they were playing a game of badminton, his arm suddenly shrunk back down to what it was, and he had to regrow it, showing that Steven didn't actually grow. He's just stretching his body, like with his gem powers. And he accidentally revealed this when he shrunk back down to kind of relieve himself, and he did it right in front of Greg and Amethyst. And they were really worried. They were concerned. Like, and Amethyst was just like, you can't do this. You can't be stretching your body all day. You're going to hurt yourself. Gems can't do that. And Steven, which really, he's just like, well, I'm half human. Maybe it's different for me. So then he goes back to stretching his body with Greg and Amethyst not really doing anything about it. I'm guessing they're concerned, but I'm guessing they just wanted to see how this played out, and for him to learn a lesson out of it. So he's talking with Connie on a picnic blanket under the stars. Connie's kind of revealed their feelings, saying, I'm really glad I get to grow up with you. I was afraid that you wouldn't be growing up. And the moment she said that, suddenly Steven started shrinking down back to an infant. And she shows the gems and Greg, and Amethyst is just like, I told you this is why you don't stretch your body out. And I found this really interesting, actually. Amethyst hands, Steven to Pearl. Pearl's just like, no, keep him away from me. Garnet, she tried to get him to stop crying, but he wouldn't. So Greg takes them because, Greg's the father. And then they go for a drive because Greg felt that, Greg knew that when Steven was a baby, driving would normally be what calm him down. That's when Greg reveals, the gems really had nothing to do with Steven when he was a baby. He was the one that took care of him. And, he was getting ready to take Connie home, but, Connie said, no, I want to stay. I want to be here for Steven. I want to, help take care of him. She also said, it doesn't matter how old you are, or how old you seem to me. I still want to hang out with you. I still want to be with you. And then afterwards, the next morning, Steven disappeared. Connie thought that he shrunk back down even further to the form of a zygote.
I just gotta say, when Connie said that, she's like, "Oh my god, did you get any spoilers?" Like, Steven, he's become a zygote. I was like, I cannot believe they got away with that. But that's of course, little kids are not going to know what a zygote is, but. Even so, it's like, wow, that's really, really subtle, dirty joke. If you can even call
everybody.
If you can even call it a dirty joke, but still,
I wouldn't really call it a dirty joke. Isn't that just
it's a fertilized egg?
Yeah,
it's scientific.
Yeah, but it's very adult. It's a very adult reference. Like, it's one that, us adults will get what she means. Like, she's basically saying, oh my god, he's a sperm. That's more or less what she's implying.
But it's still a scientific reference, so I can see why they were able to get away with it. But regardless, so she runs out, she's freaking out, but then she sees Steven back to his normal self. They have their little discussion, their relief discussion. But then Connie notices a single hair on his cheek, and then he's getting all excited. He shows his father the gems. She started to grow facial hair, which is a sign that he is actually growing, and that's where the episode ends.
Yeah, so. That's why I said it's not so much that his aging halted, so much as it slowed down considerably.
Mm-hmm. So like I said prior, that does answer your concern yesterday as to your doubt about him being 14. They explained that.
Yeah.
So, but overall, so. What do you guys think? What did you guys think of this episode?
I don't know. It was even more adorable how Sapphire and Ruby met for the first time, or whatever happened between Connie and Steven.
Oh yeah,
especially during the dancing sequence.
Yeah, it was just a very, very adorable episode. It's if you love the whole Connie and Steven shipping, this episode's just going to make you go, "Daw!"
It's gotten to the point where it's if you still don't think or even realize that Steven and Connie have a thing for each other, you have to be outright dense to not notice it here.
Steven even made a comment where he was saying how, if Connie keeps growing and I'm not, when Connie becomes president, what am I going to be? First boy?
Yeah, pretty much implying that he thinks that they're going to be married, which they probably are at this rate. So
yeah, I mean, all right. Look, that one moment in the episode when Connie rested her head onto Steven, that pretty much said it all right there.
Yeah, because
I see that part, and I'm just thinking, for God's sake, you two, just kiss already.
Yeah, because it's here we have Garnet, smooth ass square mom, starts playing slow dance music specifically for Steven. Steven and Connie start dancing. They're talking a little bit, and Connie's just Connie's just it's weird to have to look up at you now. And Steven's weird good or weird bad, and she's weird good. And then she lays her head on his chest and starts blushing, she's in that sense of someone being really comfortable with their partner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And unfortunately, Steven kind of had to ruin it because he was stretching himself out and was on the verge of throwing up.
Right.
It's damn it, Steven.
Yeah, and then it's I also just really liked how, the very concept of this episode with, Steven stretching him and everything, it's really nothing more of an extension of the whole shape-shifting thing, which, clearly we've seen Steven, try shape-shifting, remember cat fingers. Granted, that went, a little haywire, but still, I mean, we had seen in the past that he's capable, he is capable of doing it, just not to the extent of, say, Amethyst, who shapeshifts and changes her body all the goddamn time, which I actually find, again, I found really, feel really interesting how it's like, considering how we constantly see Amethyst shape-shifting, changing her body and everything, when she gave Steven that warning, don't do it too much. And it's like, I guess maybe that is because he is part human not a full gem.
Well, at the same time, we have to wonder what she means by too much, because she even says, like, for one thing, I liked the subtle hint and the subtle foreshadow that she gave at the beginning of the episode when Steven was trying to hang his flyers on top of, above the barn door, and Amethyst did it for him by stretching out her body. And then she was even like, it's like, what's the verdict? I can't do this forever. So it was that was a very subtle hint towards it. And then not to mention, you bring up the cat fingers, but like that was the only time we've ever seen Steven shapeshift his body aside from that. This was the first time since then where we've seen Steven do anything of that sort.
Right. But even so, it's like, because we had the cat fingers episode, this isn't like, like a whole new power that came out of the blue or something for him. It's like, oh no, that's right, he can do that. It was like one of those things like, you completely forgot about it because, he naturally hasn't done it since. But when you think back to it, it's like, oh yeah, that's right, he did do cat fingers.
Yeah. So that does make me wonder in terms of how shapeshifting actually worked, not just for Steven, but for the gems in general. Like, this is the first time where we hear Amethyst say, she mentioned before not to do it too often, but this is the first time where we realize that doing it, where you're holding a form for too long, or shape-shifting too much is outright damaging to the gems. This is the first time where we actually see that.
Right. This is where I'm not sure, like, is it because, like, could she be implying that because, maybe Steven's part human, that maybe it is more damaging to him? Or is there indeed, like, a limit as far as the gems go, and how far does that limit, extend? Because, again, I keep saying this, but it's like, we see Amethyst constantly shifting all the time, so it's like, well, what's her limit? Compared to, like, say, compared to any other gem, like compared to Pearl, Garnet, or Peridot, but we can't really tell because we haven't really seen the others doing any kind of, like, real shape-shifting or anything like that. That's usually Amethyst's thing.
We've seen Garnet do it a couple of times. Like, mostly it just extends to her stretching out her arms, but we've seen her actually straight up shapeshift one time when she changed into Steven when they were playing Steven Tag, but that was about it. But even then, like, in terms of Amethyst shape-shifting, she does it constantly, but she never seems to hold the form for that long. She does it just to play a gag or something, but she never stays in the form for very long.
I mean, it's like, I can only imagine is like Amethyst would warn Steven not to do it so much because, I'm leaning more towards so because of the fact, it is because Steven is half human, and it's like, the more Steven would try to stretch out his body, the more damage it does, like, probably to, like, what was it, like, his organs, or heck, even his skeletal system or whatever, which is something that the gems do not have, which...
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I can see them probably playing out the same kind of logic for Steven that they do for, like, Jake the Dog in Adventure Time. And I can actually make the reference because I'm actually watching that show now.
Right.
But, like, you guys probably haven't seen Adventure Time, but, like, how they handle it there is, like, with Jake the Dog's powers, he also has the ability to stretch and shapeshift. He does it all the time. But there are episodes where we see him stretch too much, and his organs stretch along with his body. So... So I can only assume that probably the same thing would happen here for Steven.
It's kind of hard to say since these are two completely different universes we're talking about here.
But they're also two shows that both Rebecca Sugar worked on, so...
But even so, like, Ryan does bring up a good point, because Steven is, even though he's half gem, he's still human, he's still organic. So there's organs, tissue, muscle, bones to consider, whereas the gems, they don't have to worry about all that. Their bodies, after all, are nothing more than physical illusions. Yeah, so that's something they don't ever really take into consideration.
Yeah, but at the same time, also, like they don't take it into consideration, but they do kind of know the feeling of having them now. Because something that I read up from I guess a Steven Universe like handbook that I saw, something that Rose tried to, like, have the gems do. she tried to have him like replicate what it's like to have organs. That's why gems are able to eat. They don't have stomachs, but they shapeshift stomachs into themselves. That's why they're able to like be able to Eva saw an example of this where Garnet blew out the candles. Like she only was able to do that because they shapeshift themselves lungs. Like Rose was really competent about trying to get the gems to know what it's like to be human. So she would have them actually give themselves organs so they can try to have those kinds of experiences. Hell, she even shapeshifted herself a womb for Steven. So
yeah.
Because they are just because like they have no reason to actually have these organs in general. So more than likely, the inside of their body is just more than likely just solid or just light. Who knows?
So which is why people like Amethyst are able to stretch out with ease.
Yeah, so they probably get rid of the organs, so they don't have to worry about that. Where for Steven, it's an entirely different story.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think he can get rid of his own organs. That'd probably be a problem for him.
Yeah, really.
It'll eventually possibly lead him to dying, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I guess now that you bring up, like, the whole dying thing and everything, I guess, like, I don't know, I want to kind of go back and, like, talk a little bit about the whole aging thing, because it's like, even though, his aging is definitely slowed down considerably, I mean, it's like, I was getting a lot of flashbacks to, like, what was it, one of the early episodes in the first season, where, Steven, like, if you remember in the episode, it was where he was rapidly aging, but he was constantly going forward to the point where he was like...
the other quote-unquote birthday episode.
Yeah, like, he was more concerned about the gems with their birthdays and stuff. He's like, oh, come on, you have to celebrate a birthday. And they're like, they either didn't get the concept or they just didn't care because it never really mattered to them. And that was when his aging went haywire, but he was going forward and so far forward that we actually see him as, like, this, like, decrepit old man who can, like, barely breathe, let alone talk.
I'm getting too old for this!
Right, and that was when we saw the gems, like, freaking out and everything. They're like, we have to get him to be, act like a kid again, and the whole thing will be reversed. But that was, like, really the first time they really, I guess, like, it hit them with the fact that one day Steven will die. So it's like, I think this episode was like kind of like a compliment to that one. Because it's like, in this one, we do see it's like, okay, yes, his aging is slowed considerably. So tragic as this is pretty much going to be, Steven is going to outlive practically everybody in Beach City. He's going to outlive his dad. He's going to outlive Connie. He's going to outlive everybody he knows except for the gems. I mean, for all we know, he can end up living hundreds of years before he eventually dies.
I kind of wonder about that because, we see that he does have... We saw before, like, the gems kind of explained that rapid aging had to do with his state of mind. Like, he felt older, so he kept aging more. Could it be that because he's still very immature and acts very much like a kid, that was why his aging kind of stayed where it was for a while? Because he still had the mindset of a child?
Possibly.
I mean, it's like... I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, because Steven only now just got this facial hair. Maybe because he's just now feeling like he's starting to get older?
Either that or that's a sign like I don't know if it applies to like his gemstone itself or whatever, but I was slightly under the assumption it may have something to do with like that's a sign that the gemstone is like maturing like naturally, or if that's even how it works.
I don't know.
Because we see beforehand, like in an earlier episode in season 2, where we saw quote unquote younger versions of like Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl.
Quote unquote younger, because keep in mind, even Greg said when he first met them at the age of 22, they never really changed. So,
right, but in that episode, they looked younger, but I can only imagine it's like they look younger, but even then, it's like they probably could age like as fast as Greg.
I don't think it's so much looking younger, more so just based on what they were wearing.
Possibly.
But yeah, anyway, one thing, I guess kind of moving back to Steven, one thing I kind of do want to bring up that I noticed, Steven seems to be getting that preteen mentality where he kind of just assumed that things that things kind of happen the way he just thinks like they can. I noticed this when Amethyst was trying to warn him about him abusing his powers like the way he was, and his instant rebuttal was, "Well, I'm half human. Maybe it'll work differently." Kind of that teenager kind of logic, where
like,
it's like
rebellious, you think, or
kind of, yeah. Like he did he didn't even like take into consideration what Greg and Amethyst were trying to warn him about. He just wanted to continue doing what he was doing.
Pretty much.
So I guess, and not to mention, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, there was also a point earlier in the episode where after Connie wished him happy birthday, and then Greg came up and he was like he was my best friend first, and then gave him a big hug. Steven was really cringy and was like, "Dad," like he was embarrassed. Like
yeah, right.
We've never seen him do that before, so I'm wondering if maybe Steven is starting to become more teenager-like now.
That seems like a reasonable sign, actually, that he's getting to that preteen mentality.
okay.
I'm gonna have to wonder. Oh well. Yeah. Aside from that, like there wasn't too much else for this episode. This was more so a we got some bit more knowledge on Steven's powers as well as the gem shape-shifting powers, and a little more character development for both Steven and Connie. But that was really about it.
I just have to ask, did anyone else feel that Steven had Charlie Brown's face when he was a baby?
I thought that.
I cannot be the only one.
I was just laughing more at Amethyst being the car seat.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny.
That caught me off guard. Like I didn't even realize it. Like I initially questioned why they still have a car seat. Like I just figured that Greg still had it from when Steven was a baby. And then I was just more paying attention to what Connie was saying. Like how adorable that scene was with Connie. And then all of a sudden Amethyst started talking. He's like, "Is she in the back? Is she in the trunk?" No, she's the fucking car seat. I was like, wait.
Yeah, guys, Steven needs a change.
Well,
Oh yeah, Steven pooped on Amethyst.
Steven, you blockhead. Oh my god.
you know what? I found that even more hilarious because apparently Steven didn't understand and heard everything that Connie said even as a baby. So and he still pooped on Amethyst. Sure.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, in which case, I guess that does it for this episode. So join us in the next part where we talk about tomorrow's episode. We'll see you all then.
Alright, see you then.
Give me more door.